Hey everyone, this is my first attempt ever at just an abstract painting where I actually had to paint using a brush. Um, I got this idea off of Artist Till Death YouTube channel. Erika did this on there, and Baby Bertha is what hers was named. I thought this was just absolutely beautiful and knew I had to give this a shot. So I just decided to try this with what I had laying around here. I don't have any artist quality acrylics. This was all done with just craft paints and things that I had laying around here. Uh, so right here, I just put down a coat of white, just plain gloss white, because that's what I had. Honestly, I don't think the brand makes any difference, but if you want to know, it was just apple barrel, just, cheapo apple barrel craft paint. Because, like I said, that's what I had. All right, so then I got sort of a rough bristled brush, sort of a flat, stiff brush, and kind of used it to brush in. The color is called Succulent by Folk Art. This is something I had picked up at Hobby Lobby because I thought that might be fun to use in an acrylic pour or something at some time or other. I just thought the color was gorgeous. So that I just went through and tried to keep it very light. I did not let the white dry because I wanted it to kind of blend with the green, or the succulent, so that it would soften up the color and help not leave any sharp edges on it. It's a little bit harder, I think, because these paints are so fluid, for me anyway, it was a little hard to not have sharp edges on this. I think if I had had some of the thick artist quality acrylics, where I could have sort of, beat it into my brush a little bit to make it a little softer. I think it would have been easier to come out with a softer blend there, but I did okay in the end. I was terrible at making these angles though. I just was. You can tell this is my first time at doing this. I was very happy with the way this one turned out. I really was. I was not expecting to be happy with it when I first started because I would look at it and think, oh, holy cow, that's terrible. But I kept comparing myself to Erika, she does some incredible work. If you all have not ever checked out Artist Till Death, their YouTube channel, you really need to go on there and check it out, especially if you do anything with resin. They do some incredible resin work, but they use alcohol inks, acrylics, resins, just all kinds of things. So just, look up Artist Till Death on YouTube and check out their work and watch the video on there that Erika did of her creation of Baby Bertha if you want to see a much better version of this painting. Although I am planning on trying to do another similar one of these. I really enjoyed doing this. I was surprised at how much I did. I just wanted to, hers was so beautiful that I just wanted to see if I could create one for myself, uh, just as a challenge to me. But I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. So you all may be seeing another one or two of these on here at some point when I have time to do them. This took a very long time for me. Very long time. Sorry, I've got my throat is so dry today. I'm having to put a cough drop in. This is why it's sped up. I'm really sorry. I know that a lot of you do not like to watch videos that are sped up, but I'm pretty sure you also don't want to watch a 4-hour video. So, and it actually took me a lot longer than 4 hours to make this. There was a couple of times that I actually forgot to turn my camera back on, And then I did resin this at the end. I ended up having to do 2 coats of resin, and I didn't even bother to try and video doing the second coat of resin on it. So um, it was a very long process. I seldom have long blocks of time, as any of you that have watched my videos know. I do the homeschooling, our 2 granddaughters that we're raising, and then there's always housework and family time, and there's just always things going on. So it's difficult for me to get long blocks of time. In fact, I think that it was kind of funny as I was getting all of the video clips and stuff together on the editor. I think there was 14 in total. So that tells you how many different times I kept having to stop and start and stop and start. So on some of them, you may not notice the change, but on others you will, because I may have done just a little something to it off camera. There was a couple of times that, like I said, I forgot to turn not my camera, but my phone back on. All right, so this color I'm putting on now is Rose Pink by Folk Art. Just another craft acrylic that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. I was kind of trying to stagger it around with the green shade. I didn't want to completely cover up the green, obviously. I just kind of wanted to stagger it in there a little bit to where it overlapped some. And there are some places where I felt like I got too much. But, this was a learning process for me, so I'm good with what it ended up like for my first try. That little squiggle right there, I just have no earthly idea where I was going with that. I have no idea, but that thing was awful, and I knew it was awful, and so later on I did go back and try to hide that a little bit. I don't know what I was thinking. So, anyway, that is just a soft blender brush that I had picked up for actually coating canvases with kills so that I could paint on them with alcohol ink. I just wanted a real soft brush that wouldn't leave so many bristle marks. So luckily I had that there. And I just kept going over it after I would put each color on to try and soften the edges and blend the edges out a little bit. So they were a little wispier, softer looking. Didn't have really hard lines in them. It still turned out a little less soft than I would have liked it to be, but hey, like I said, my first try, I'm happy with it. I'll take it. So, all right, I had switch colors again. I actually used the rose pink, but I also added in just a couple of drops of mulberry by Deco Art, the Americana line from Deco Art, mulberry. I just blended mixed a couple of drops in with the rose in that because I wanted to start, getting just different shades of red and pink in there. I didn't want it to all be one shade. I wanted to have a lot of shading and shadows and different look in there. So I did mix that color up. And then after that I do go on with just the mulberry, and we'll darken up some of those places even more, adding some more shadow and some depth to the color, so you don't just end up with a bunch of triangles on there with no real depth or shading to them. Okay, so funny story here for you all real quick. This is the third time that I've tried to do the voiceover for this video. It has been, I don't know why this has been insane. It's almost like this voiceover is cursed. No, I take that back. It is not. But the first time when I started doing it, I did not pay close attention to, or I didn't go back through and watch the video first before I started the voiceover. So I got about 2/3 of the way through the voiceover, and realized there was just this huge long stretch of nothing but that painting sitting there. You were literally watching paint dry. And I like, holy cow, I don't know how I did not notice that I had done that. Somehow I had left on my phone just hanging there while I had gone off to do something else, and had about almost 25 minutes of footage in there of just looking at this painting and nobody around. So I was like, are you kidding me? So I stopped the voiceover and was going to go in and just cut out the video. Somehow I accidentally deleted the voiceover for the entire video at the same time. So I had to start it over again. And when I started over again, I got part of the way into it and just had this huge coughing fit because my throat had been so dry. And I think I've had the heat up a little higher than normal today, and it's just dried out the house really badly. So, I mean, huge, coughing, gagging, sounding like I was at death's door. And so when, I hit stop on the video and was gone forever. And when I came back to do this version of it, I decided that I was just going to start all over again. So hopefully I'm not going to forget anything, because I had everything really great, fresh in my mind, that I wanted to be sure and tell you all while I was working on this. And I had gotten so flustered by the time I got through with the coughing fit and accidentally deleting, somewhere around 45 minutes worth of voiceover that I had already done. I was just about nuts when I started this one. So, all right. So hopefully this one goes good. And there's not going to be any major screw ups here on this. So I've got my an extra little Luden's throat drop sitting here just in case I need it, and my ever-present cup of coffee. So hopefully I can get through this one. All right, so there's where I was adding the mulberry in. And trying to blend that just a little bit. I used that little bit smaller brush to kind of outline where I wanted things to go. In fact, that brush is, I used 3 brushes on this. One, the white, soft, bristled one, just for blending. And then this stiff bristled small one, it's maybe, I don't know, 1/2 inch wide or something, to go in and put these in. Just kind of, trying to quickly brush it, not actually paint it, but sort of, I'm sure there's a term for it, but since I don't do this kind of painting, I don't know what it is. I wasn't really dabbing it on, but I was doing it in very short strokes and trying to give it a more fuzzy look at the edges. And then I used a smaller brush when I got ready to put on the gold foil that I put on it. And a big tip about the gold foil, make sure you have enough before you start, because I did not, and I ended up having some big problems with it. I'll get into that as I get to the foil. Now, after I finished doing all of this, adding the colors that I wanted, I kind of blended it all together again to soften up the edges a little bit more, which somehow that part jumped and got missed. But anyway, now there I made a mixture of polyacrylic and some interference gold mica powder from Pearl-Ex, the Jacquard Pearl-Ex. This is some stuff that I had sitting around, for 2 years, from back when I was going to start trying to do some stuff with resin and never really got a chance to do much. So that's what I used. But I wanted to add some shine to it. I already knew I was going to do gold leaf, and I thought, well, that interference gold will also give me a little bit of shine and sparkle where the gold leaf is not at. Add a little bit more depth to the painting at the same time. I just kind of used it around the edges mostly of the reds to kind of shadow it and give it a little bit of I don't know, depth, I guess, in there. So, and I can't tell you measurements. I mean, I put out a little bit of polyacrylic into an old medicine cup that came like off of a kid's Tylenol bottle, and just put in a some interference gold powder, mica powder. I didn't measure it. I used a craft stick, like popsicle stick size, and just scooped it up. I think I did maybe 2 scoops of it, 2 smaller size scoops maybe. So maybe like 1 big scoop or 2 smaller size scoops is about what I used. But you can sort of see here where the light's hitting it right, the shimmer that you get off of that gold interference. It's beautiful. I love the interference colors. I think they're just gorgeous. Yeah, I apologize for my head and my hat. Yeah. You'll probably see that more than once on this video because I did have to keep leaning to get a view of what I was doing. I was having a hard time seeing some of the interference paint was a little hard to see unless I could get some reflection going off of it. Which is why I'd leaned all the way over there. I was trying to see what was going on up at the top of it. I guess to you all that's the bottom of it. Since I was sitting on the other side, that was the top for me. Yeah, all of this is just touching up, places where I decided I wanted to add a little bit more, especially if I felt like there was too much white showing in places through the red colors. Definitely wanted to add more in there. Um, yeah, there was another jump where I forgot to turn my phone back on when I sat down and started working. All right, so I used just the polyacrylic to put the gold leaf on this time. I am definitely going to get some of the gold leaf glue because I'm hoping that I can actually see it. This polyacrylic, when I put it on, I could not see it once it was on there. I had a terrible time being able to tell where I had just put it down at. And also, it was drying so quickly that that was a big issue. And from what I understand, the glue that's specially made for gold leaf, you've got quite a long time that it stays tacky. So it would work much better and would probably hold it better than the polyacrylic does. I mean, polyacrylic holds it okay, but it was a little too easy to brush off places where I didn't want it brushed off. Um, so let's see here. I didn't have any particular patterns in mind. I just kind of went in and painted the polyacrylic in places where sort of in between and overlapping some of the red, and trying to leave a little bit of the succulent green color. Although for me that was more of just a background depth color, so I wasn't really. I definitely wanted to have the white and the green in there, but I wasn't as careful, I guess, about not covering some of that up as I was with making sure I left plenty of the red showing. Red, pink, mulberry. I don't know. It's not red. It is more of a mulberry is a good term for it. It's more of a pinkish purple shades in there. And this, and I really apologize because this part where I'm putting down the gold foil, it goes on forever. If you want to fast forward through this, you're definitely not going to miss anything because it took me a long time to do this. This is a 16 by 20 canvas, and it really did take me quite a while to get all the gold leaf on there. I'm not really good at it anyway. It's something I've only used, like in my artwork, it's something that I've only used just a few times. So, I struggle with getting it stuck to my hands and getting it where I want it to go. It's a slow process for me. So this part did take a while. So if you fast forward through this part, okay, bye. I'll see you at the other side. If you're hanging in there with me, I will try to entertain you during this very boring part of this video. Yeah, there's just really not much to tell about this, about what I was doing here. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I've painted on the polyacrylic and tried to stick down the gold leaf. Um, and yeah, make sure, as I did not do, make sure that you have enough to finish your project, unless you want to really struggle or just have to stop so that you can go buy more. Now, when I was getting towards the end of the gold leaf, I knew I was going to run out. I knew I wasn't going to have enough to do exactly what I had wanted to do because I'd wanted to straighten out some spots. I didn't like the way it was shaped and, a couple of other little things that I'd wanted to do. And I realized I wasn't going to have enough. So I was a little bit ticked off with myself for not paying more attention to how much I had before I started. But I also did not realize how much it was going to take. Since I have never used gold foil on something this size, I really just didn't have a clue how much it was going to take to do it. So you can kind of see that the gold interference mica powder's glistening and reflecting in there a little bit. I also have another alcohol ink video that I need to do the voiceover for, but hopefully we'll have that one up sometime within the next week. After getting the voiceover done for this one, that's pretty much all the time I'm going to have free for today. So it's going to be another day or two before I get a chance to do the voiceover for that one. But it was another one where I just only used eggplant. I don't even think I used any metallic in it. I can't really see it good from where I'm sitting right now, but I think that one I actually did with only eggplant. So, anyway, on Yupo, because I hadn't done anything on Yupo in quite a while. I'd been using the graphics craft plastic pretty much all the time, or those little Nara rounds. So I wanted to do something on Yupo. But anyway, I'll try and get that one done fairly soon and have that back up for those of you who are my inkers who are much more interested in my inking videos than in my acrylic videos. My forays into the acrylic world. Although I also am going to try, whenever I get time, I do want to do some more of the acrylic pouring, or either pouring or a swipe or something like that. I have a couple of ideas that I wanted to try, so I'll be getting some more of that up eventually for those of you all who are interested in that. If you all have any ideas too, things that you would like to see me try, let me know. I can't do everything obviously there's some things that are just, that's just too expensive for me to go out and buy a whole new set of supplies to start something that I've never done before. But anything that you all would like to see, I'll be happy to try stuff that I have here. Anything that involves alcohol inks or acrylic paints or resin, let me know. I'll give it a shot, and maybe we can learn something together that way. I did resin this painting. I think I mentioned that. Can't remember because I can't remember what I mentioned the first two times I did the voiceover. So, um, but I did not show the second time that I resined it. I did not slow the video down for you all while I was resining, and I probably should have, because I know that's something I have not shown at all yet, is me doing resin on a painting. But it's very simple. And I did not have a respirator, just so you are aware. I did not have one. I would recommend one. I have been hearing more and more about people who are having problems because they've done resin without a respirator. And I am sadly hearing more and more about people having problems from doing alcohol inks without a respirator. So on there you can see I'll get back to the respirator in a minute. I just used another old makeup brush and just brushed off the excess of the gold foil. I had already realized here I was probably going to run short, and so I was trying to make sure that I could salvage all that I could. So I just brushed it off on this parchment paper that I had down so that I could dump it back into the little uh, jar that it came out of. So, all right, so back to the respirators. I am probably going to get a respirator to start doing my alcohol inks with, as well as definitely the resin. I have already gotten much stricter with the girls about staying out of the room when I am doing alcohol inks. Not only have I been hearing more and more about issues that people are having, I started having some issues with the alcohol inks. I had started noticing that if I was doing much inking, that I was having a lot of congestion in my chest. My lungs would just feel raw the next day, especially. It would start later that night, just bleh. Couldn't breathe good, a lot of congestion, the raw feeling. My eyes were getting dried out all the time. I was getting headaches, or am getting headaches because I don't have a respirator yet. So I have actually cut back on the amount that I'm inking right now until I can get a respirator. And I think I'm going to get, and I may regret this, but I'm probably going to either get a full face respirator or get the half mask respirator with goggles. Just because of the problems I'm having with my eyes, because they're staying very dry. I'm, they're I don't know, I feel like I'm struggling more to see, and I'm a little concerned about if I am damaging my eyes from some of the fumes. Now, I don't use a straw. Um, I can't, for one thing. It just doesn't work right for me. So I'm not like sucking in big lungfuls of air to try and blow back down onto the paintings. And I do use a vent fan and try to keep the room well ventilated. But since I started noticing some of these issues that I've been having and started seeing a few more things about it, I have decided it's much better to err on the side of caution. So I'm going to recommend to you all that, you get something to help you block some of those fumes. A respirator that's rated for alcohol fumes, or something along those lines. I I certainly would not ever want to feel responsible for any of you all having problems or getting sick, having long-term issues because of watching me do something and me having not been using a respirator or not saying every time you all really should. So I recommend that. I'm going to start recommending that you use a respirator. I would, if you have lung problems, I would flat out say do not do this at all until you get a respirator. If you already have lung issues like asthma or, COPD or something like that, or emphysema, you are going to have a tremendously hard time with this. So, uh, don't do it if you don't have a respirator. I'm talking about alcohol inks now. The acrylic paints, don't do the resin if you don't have a respirator. Too many issues with that out there, too. All right, so yes, I am still working on the foil. Brushing it off once again, trying to salvage all I could because I was starting to get a little nervous at this point, thinking, wow, am I even going to have enough to finish, getting it looking the way, even close to the way that I was wanting it to look. Sorry, kind of watching this is kind of funny to me, watching it just zip through there so fast. When it seems like it just took me forever to do it when I was actually doing it. So I kept trying to go back and forth from side to side, edge to edge, so that I could um, give the polyacrylic a chance to dry a little bit. Okay, that I just showed you, that is a little bit of brilliant gold mica powder. Another Pearl-Ex brand mica powder. I mixed it with some of the polyacrylic, as you can see. Once I realized that I was definitely not going to have enough foil for where I wanted it to go, I mixed that up because it was almost the exact same color as my gold foil and started brushing it in a little bit here and there where where the foil was thin, where it was really too thin, and I wanted to thicken it up a little bit. I wanted to have some color, some gold color in there without having to go back and use a bunch more foil. So you can see I painted in with the gold and then used that to stick the foil to. So that way it was covered more with gold without using up quite so much of the gold foil. And there was a spot or two that I painted back over just a little bit where I already had foil down, just to kind of fill in some of the bare looking spots that I had. So, and I have no idea, the measurements I did there. I don't know if I don't even remember already if you could see probably, another scoop or two with a popsicle stick sized craft stick. But at this point, I was down to almost just chunky glitter sized flakes in my cup. I just had nothing big left, and I was having a terrible time getting things covered. And I actually, I probably could have left it the way it was, but I just didn't feel like it looked good enough, so I didn't. And what I wish I had done was at the beginning had just done the outline of the runs. that sounded nasty. That sounded gross. Okay, the where the gold is sort of dripping down. I wish I had just done outline and not filled in so much. I would have used much less gold, and it actually looks better, I think, without so much of it filled in. I like the areas much more that I didn't almost completely fill in with the gold color. So I think it, is good to have a little bit of it filled in, but I should not have done quite as much as I did. Would have made my foil last longer, and I think I would have liked the way that looked better. You can see I was down to the point of it. There wasn't much point of even trying to get it back into the jar because I was having to sweep stuff off a little quicker than I wanted to try to get some other areas covered. Yeah, there's just not a whole lot to say here. This is just me desperately trying to cover what I can because it was getting pretty bad by this point. It was just kind of picking up even a few little pieces that had fallen down on the parchment paper, trying to stick them on there to fill in a hole or two where I just felt like it really was just an obvious gap, not something that looked like it ought to be there. But I do have to say that using the gold mica powder mixed in with the polyacrylic really helped. It really did. I I mean, it stayed really nice and shiny, nicely metallic, and it helped a lot not have quite such bare looking spots to it. Yeah, you all see the loose you see the loose foil on there? I mean, that's what I had left at that point. My jar was empty other than those little teeny bits of pretty much nothing but gold glitter was what I had left. And I actually toyed with the idea of putting some gold glitter on this, but then decided that I didn't want that. I really did not want any glitter in it. So I loved the mica powders, but I just didn't want actual glitter in this one. And now once I got through with the gold leaf, I, it'll start in a minute. There's where I was just going back over and filling in some of the sort of bare looking spots, I think. Yeah, trying to scratch up any little bits of gold leaf I could find. I was still using the gold mica powder there. But once I got done with that and everything, dried really well, I had some interference green. And once it was dry, I had decided this at the last minute and I was too impatient. When I came back to resin it, I was too impatient to wait on anything else to dry. So I had this interference green mica powder. So I just took a small brush and brushed on the mica powder straight on the canvas by itself. Didn't put anything with it, no polyacrylic, no nothing. Just kind of brushed it on the canvas on its own and tried to kind of highlight the green where the succulent shade of green was in there. Just gave it a little bit more, um, a little bit more shine, reflectivity in the light. Looked really good. And here I spent a lot of time sort of nitpicking over the gold, which that's one of those cases where probably to no one but me would any of that even been noticeable. But that's just me. I get a little nitpicky sometimes. I think the the lighting in here, it was just, I'm not sure what the deal was with this, but the painting is nowhere near as dark as it looks on here. It in person it looks a little softer than it does on here on this video. So there I was trying to where I couldn't get it to come to a point. That's what I was working on there. I didn't want just rounded ends on those. I really wanted them to kind of come to a point, so that's what I was trying to fix in there. And you can see my gold foil by this time, it didn't even look like gold foil anymore. I probably would have been better off to have just left everything the way it was. And I think the next time I do this, I think I had mentioned that I was going to buy the sheets, but I'm thinking I might do the acrylics and then do a layer of resin and then do the gold foil on top of the resin and then do another layer of resin. So just as something I was thinking about, thinking that might really give it a lot more depth as well. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably give it a try at some point and see how it works. I mean, it may look terrible, but it may look great. So I would like to have a little more of the 3D depth effect to it. So that's why I think putting the gold foil on top of a layer of resin might really make it stand out. Yeah, still just filling in with a little bit of the gold there. There, the gold mica powder. Every time I would turn it around, I would see more places that I felt like I needed to touch up and fill in just a little bit. Most of it was places where I had, accidentally brushed off a little too much of the foil. Although I discovered when I started resining, I actually had not brushed off enough of the foil because I did have to pick out quite a bit of little bitty bits and pieces that sort of floated up with the resin. I might should have sealed over top of it with something else. I don't know. Since I'm fairly new to that, I really don't know. But it wasn't, too bad, but there were some there were some spots where my foil definitely floated away a little bit. So there's where I'm adding the interference green. This is a couple of days later. Um, I had let it dry really, really good and decided to resin over it and went back in with this interference green. And you'll see I'm just mostly staying where the green already is, that succulent green color, just trying to stay in that and trying to not blend it or cover up places where I had put some of the interference gold early on that was mixed with the polyacrylic. So that I'm holding, that's just the straight jar of mica powder. I'm just brushing it on there dry, and sort of took my finger and rubbed it in just a little here and there, or if a little clump of it got in there, I tried to brush it down with my finger, flatten it out a little bit. I'm sorry, my head got in the way constantly on this one. Trying to see the mica powder, was a little bit tricky. Had to get it the right angle to get it to reflect so that I could tell if there was anywhere else that I needed to put it. All right, so there you go. I'm using art resin for this. This is what I had. I do like the art resin because it does not have a strong smell to it. And supposedly it is safe to breathe, when you're working with it. And even if it's safe to breathe when you're putting it on, I have issues with how safe it is to breathe when you heat it. Because it smells different when you heat it. All resin smells different when you heat it. So I think you're probably releasing stuff. All right, I stacked a couple of just wooden panels that I had underneath so that the weight of the resin wouldn't sink down the middle of the canvas. So it was sitting at just the perfect height for me to put stack two of the wood panels that I had here that I was going to mount some alcohol inks on. Just stack those under it. So I just mixed up the resin, per directions, 1 part to 1 part each, and rubbed it on there. And, I rubbed it around real good with my hands, heated it just to get out any air bubbles. I tried it with the heat gun that I have first, and I just didn't feel like that was doing a great job of getting the air bubbles out. So I did go back over it with a torch a couple of times to make sure I had the air bubbles out. And then you'll see here in just a minute, I put a tote over it and left it to cure for a couple of days. And then did notice there were just too many places that I didn't like that the gold foil was sticking out of the resin. So I did do another coat of resin after that that's not on this video. So yeah, there I'm picking out all the gold foil. So anyway, and that's all there is to it. I forgot to show you the unveiling. So it goes straight from it's got a tote over it to here's my final pictures. So, but I really appreciate you all watching. I appreciate all my inkers being patient with me and all my other endeavors that I want to try out on the side as well. And I hope that y'all enjoyed this. And thank you again to Erika from Artist Till Death for the wonderful inspiration for doing this. I love that channel. You all always have some rocking things on there. So, all right, well, I'm just going to let you all finish this video out because there is not much more to it. And say thanks again, give it a thumbs up if you like it. If you're not subscribed, I'd love to see you subscribe to my channel. And I will be back with y'all soon with another video. Stay tuned till the end so you can get a couple of close-up shots of what it ended up looking like as well. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.